Hello, welcome back. I'm losing count, which is a good thing, but this is probably like my fourth or fifth live stream. So in today's video, I've decided to focus on something I've been wanting to do for quite some time actually, which is discuss a online bank that I discovered a few years ago, and it's helped me save so much money when it comes to like foreign transaction fees and anything to do with foreign currencies. So this is, in my opinion, the best way to send money overseas to your loved ones. Honestly, everything to do with foreign currency. So even purchasing things online where it's actually in a foreign currency and you always get a charged fee, extra fees. If you do business and you pay subcontractors, traveling, just not too long ago, traveled to Turkey, and just thinking about the cost of, for example, buying currency at the airport, which you all know is a lot, but when I actually compared it, I was like, oh my God, this is painful when I sort of realized this. So I'm going to be comparing Wise with, I guess, some common ways that people would send money overseas or get or buy currency. So I'll just share my screen. All right, so what I thought I'd do to make it, I guess, easier is to look at, say, 1,000 Australian dollars, and then look at what would, if I am starting with 1,000 Australian dollars, what will my actual recipient get if I send that overseas? Through these various common methods that people would typically do it. So one is Western Union. So for example, there is a way you can do it online that's cheaper than in store, but still you'll be able to sort of see and try to understand, I guess, how these financial institutions work, because that's something else that I really wanted to, I guess, highlight in today's discussion. Because sometimes they'll say there's no fees, but actually there is a fee. It's just hidden in the exchange rate that they give you. Travelex, so that's for people who sort of are traveling. PayPal obviously has been around for some time and was a way people send money. MoneyGram is something that a friend asked me to also sort of look into and compare. And finally, if you're just lazy, can't be bothered to do all of it, and you're like, I'm just going to use my usual bank, definitely I'm going to share what is a common Australian major bank, such as Commonwealth Bank of Australia. What would your recipient actually get in the end? So before we do that, I actually want to compare what is the current exchange rate. So let's say we want to send 1,000 Australian dollars, and let's say we want to send that to, let's say, the US. So the US is, I guess, a currency that sometimes in developing countries they accept US dollars sometimes. So so let's go with just Australian to USD. So I'm now going to share, firstly, the XE currency exchange website, just to see what is sort of the quote unquote real rate. So let's do that now. Okay, so this is XE. So this is typically what most people will look at to find out what is the current value of my currency compared to another currency. So if I go quote unquote the real rate, and then we'll just go enter just to make sure that did it properly. So it is approximately $681.41. So I'm just going to copy that, and I'm going to put that into our document. Okay, so now we've got what our quote unquote real rate is according to XE rate. So let's now start going into each of these one at a time. So we'll start off with Western Union. Okay, so Western Union, I guess once upon a time was kind of the only way that people were able to send money overseas. And I guess we're already aware the fees are pretty enormous. But more recently, I've had people share, if you do it online, there actually are no fees, which I thought was interesting. I didn't really believe it. And sure enough, there was a catch, which I'm going to demonstrate to you. So let's change this to US dollars. Whoops. I guess these are common currencies. Here we go, US dollars. So if we go, don't worry about that now. So basically, if I'm sending money through Western Union, but online, not in person, which obviously has that over-the-counter fee, so it's telling us that the receiver will get $681.54. And obviously notice how it says there's zero fee if you're doing it online. But let's compare this to what we had learned earlier of what the quote unquote real rate is. It's actually not bad. That actually is not bad at all. The exchange rate is actually, according to this, it's actually only about $1 or so difference, like $1.50-ish difference. So that's actually not bad at all. So yeah, so that's Western Union. So let's now have a look at Travelex. Okay, so Travelex, so I've got 1,000 Australian. So in the case of Travelex, so again, this is actually using their website. So obviously there's no over-counter fees. So it even says here, online rates vary from in-store rates. Apparently from one to the other, they are quite varied even between the same company, but other locations. So that's just something to be mindful of. But according to this, what you will actually be able to get with 1,000 Australian dollars is $667.70. So let's put that into our document. So you'll be able to see that's obviously not great, and that's the online rate. So that's actually pretty poor. Probably something to for sure avoid when it comes to, if you want to get money. However, this definitely is still better than buying the money from the airports. I've heard, for example, if you just want a little bit of cash to get started with, if you're traveling overseas, you can do the Travelex and then, purchase it sort of online just a little bit, just to sort of get by until you're there. And then, try to find something sort of locally, which sometimes you might actually get a lot better rates. So yeah, so that is Travelex. So next one is PayPal. So PayPal, they don't quite make it as easy to work out what the fee is until I guess you log into your account and you try to do it sort of yourself. But I'll just share with you what they have said when it comes to sending money overseas. So basically they say that it depends if you are just using your existing PayPal balance versus if you are using like a card, like a credit card, basically linked to your account. So if you're using your balance, obviously there's like no additional fees. However, they do charge a fee, which is 5% of the send amount, but no less than $1 Australian and no higher than $6. So at least they're kind of capping the fee, which is, I guess, good to know. So what's handy though is the Wise website sort of gives you a bit of an idea of, I guess, the difference if you send through PayPal versus if you send through Wise. So let's actually see what that is. Okay, so now we're going to compare Wise to PayPal. So if I was sent exactly $1,000 with Wise versus PayPal, so then this gives you an idea. So basically Wise, they will get $675.91, whereas with PayPal, the recipient will actually get $646.49, and the fee itself is $5.99. Whereas, where is the catch? It's actually the exchange rate. So this is, I guess, a key thing that I wanted to highlight when it comes to like just financial institutions in general. So they will say there's no fees, but more often than not, the fee is hidden. And the most common way that they hide the fee is actually through their own made up exchange rate. So in other words, this is where the fee is, but you're seeing this. So you're like, oh yeah, $6, that's not bad. That, I already have a PayPal account, it's not really a hassle to send it. Just for the less headache, I'm just going to use PayPal, since I don't mind $6 out of 1,000. However, the true cost, as you can see, is actually almost 30 US dollars. So what is that in Australian? 30.42 USD. So that's actually almost 43 Australian dollars that you have lost hidden here. So that's just something to be mindful of. So what I always do is I always check what that service is, because obviously there's probably new services out there. So I've just highlighted, I guess, some common ones. But as you can see, if you just go, okay, what is it that they're saying the other person gets? And now let me check what is the actual value of my currency right now through XE currency converter. So then the difference between those two. That's the real fee, not the pretend fee. So yeah, that's a very key point. Okay, so let's put that in to our document. Okay, so obviously so far PayPal is the worst. And actually Western Union, I'll be honest, is surprising me. It doesn't seem bad, but I feel like there must be a catch somewhere. So I might revisit Western Union again, just because I kind of don't really believe that the fee they're charging is only about $1. Just knowing their track record. So we'll definitely revisit that. But let's now go into MoneyGram. So MoneyGram is one that I've heard of from a friend to sort of explore and look into. So I'll just share the MoneyGram website. Cool. So this is MoneyGram. So let's now see United States. So now if I go, I want to send 1,000 Australian dollars. So this is saying, again, there's no fee, and the recipient should actually get $681.94. However, it's saying something about that they're getting a bit more. So that might be like a little promotion, perhaps. That's curious. So I'm just going to put both figures, because obviously there's a reason why they're putting two figures. Maybe it's like a promotional thing. So I'll just go US dollars, MoneyGram. And then the other figure they mentioned, which is 669. Okay, so oops, so it was 669.7. Okay, so that, again, that's actually not bad at all. Yeah, but let's now compare it to if you can't be bothered with any of these services and you just want to use like your local bank. So let's have a look at just a typical major Australian bank, Commonwealth Bank. So I'll just share you their website first, so they kind of explain a little bit about how the fees work. Okay, so Commonwealth Bank, so they basically talk about, I guess, some of the different ways that you can send money overseas. So it does depend, and that's like the cost. So, for example, if you're doing it through a branch, it's actually a $30 fee, obviously because it's involving someone. But then it says if you're using the app, then the fee is waived. And then it's sort of, it does tell you, obviously, there is still like a conversion fee, which typically, again, is how they hide the fees. So yeah, so what's great is Wise, of course, promoting themselves, have done a little calculator, so you can actually see sort of the live comparison of if you send through Wise versus if you send through Commonwealth Bank. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so once again, we're going 1,000 Australian to US. So I'll just make sure that that's correct. So now you'll be able to see, again, what do they say? There's no fee. However, the fee, once again, is hidden in the rate. So what you'll actually end up, the recipient will only get $652.98. So let's put that in our sheet. So if we just go back to that comparison, that is a loss of 23.17 US. So that is equivalent to about $34 Australian. So it's not as bad as you can see. PayPal. So PayPal by far was actually the worst, which is quite ironic because for some time they were pretty much the go-to when it came to sending money overseas. But I suppose they've kind of, I suppose they're focusing on other other things now, now that there's so much competition. But yeah, so that is the Wise Bank. The comparison with Wise, or we're about to get to that actually. So let's now finally look at Wise. So we saw a little bit of it as we went along. And actually, I'm just curious, I might even just double check the exchange rate because obviously it changes every so often. So let's have a look. Okay, so back to our sheet, 681. So something that I'm just noticing, which actually it just occurred to me, actually is not making sense to me. This is what happens when you do a live stream. I might have to look into this. According to this, the person, if I send through Western Union, they're going to get more than what the rate is currently, which is definitely a bit curious. Definitely doesn't make sense. And same with MoneyGram. So I might just quickly see if I can check another currency converter. So I might just go to Yahoo. 680 roughly. Definitely seems correct. And so let's go back to Western Union. So we said 1,000 Australian is supposed to give us 681.50. So I'll just update that sheet. It's about the same, but let's actually see what happens if I click send money. because I kind of don't really believe it. So yeah, let's see. So yep, they're basically saying if we're using a debit card, your recipient will get this. And this is if you provide a bank account. So that's obviously a key thing. Whereas if we do cash pickup, obviously that's going to be a huge difference. I might actually make a note of that. So going to a bank account versus, so this is for bank and this is cash. Okay. All right. So now, finally, I promised you Wise. So let's have a look at Wise. So 1,000 Australian dollars with Wise. I'll just refresh the page. So the fee is basically $6 Australian. So what the customer will actually, or your loved one will actually get is $676.75. So let's put that in our document. Cool. So this is actually quite funny and interesting, considering in this live stream, we both discovered together that according to current sort of rates, it looks like the best way actually to send money overseas is through Western Union as well as MoneyGram. Wise is definitely better than your local bank. PayPal is the absolute worst, and forget about Travelex, especially at the airport, because this is bad as it is, but forget about at the airport. But I am curious if anyone has actually used Western Union, I guess more recently, as well as MoneyGram, if there are any other fees that kind of pop up as you actually go through that process. Because I have to say, one thing that I like about Wise that's quite different to other financial institutions is they're very transparent about their fees, whereas other institutions, they kind of lie to you and they say there's no fees, but they hide the fee in things like the exchange rate and just So whereas Wise, like, it takes getting used to at first because you like feeling like you're not paying a fee, but then when I actually look at how just the addition of all the fees I would have incurred if I use PayPal, for example, which probably would have been my primary method of sending money because I've always had a PayPal account. When I look at the actual savings I have, then I'm like, yeah, the Wise fees are actually so worth it. But also with Wise, you can get a card and you can take cash out when you're overseas at ATMs and things. So there might be possibly ATM fees, but like, for example, when I went to Turkey, we checked the different ATMs if there was a fee, and there was one where it was pretty nominal, like as in there wasn't really a fee, it was just really kind of the slight difference in that exchange rate, and ultimately just I saved immensely just taking out cash from the ATM with my Wise card compared to going to find like a money changer. Definitely saves so much compared to like Travelex at the airport. Like, I just remember my brother and I, we were comparing like what we actually got for, like, say 50 Australian dollars, 100 Australian dollars compared to what we actually got just taking money out of Wise, and it was a huge difference. It was actually crazy. It was like we lost like at least 10, 20 more dollars in fees basically just using, obviously, those more convenient services. Basically, it's a bank. It's an online-based bank where it's actually a kind of originally the kind of, I guess, original company was formed in sort of the UK region, but it's expanded where it's actually what do you call it? It is sort of it's met the requirements of Australian, financial regulations, Australian Securities and Investment Commission. So they've got like a license to operate. So basically, they're not a scam; they're definitely legit. But yeah, they operate and allow customers like in Australia, Indonesia, where my family's from, US. So yeah, there's quite a few places that's pretty handy at. So couple of things when it comes to using Wise. I'll just see if I can find just actually I might just have a look at if I can just show you screenshots of the app. Let's have a look. Yeah, I might actually let's do a search of Wise app images. Alrighty, so firstly, if you have a look at this screen here, so this is what the app looks like. So one key thing is that you can open up different currency accounts where you actually can have account details for the account. So it doesn't work for every currency, but for the most common currencies, like definitely US dollars, British pounds. I can't remember if I can do it for Indonesian, but there's certain currencies, I guess smaller currencies, where you can't have account details, but you absolutely can send money to people who have an account in that currency. So essentially that's what this section is. I just realized I wasn't showing you, so let me show you that again. So this is this section here, which is where you open up the different currencies. So I've got, this currency, I've got Australian, then you can have British pounds. So then once you do that, I'll just see if it actually shows you. Yep. So then whenever you make purchases, or whether it's online purchases, using your card information, or actually, tap and go locally, it will show a list of activity like so. So essentially, when you want to send money overseas with Wise, the first thing that you do is there's different ways you can do it, but personally, the way that I think is the easiest and with less sort of confusion and complications is first send money to your Wise account. So essentially, you will be having an Australian bank account if you're an Australian, or you might have like a other currency account. So then you would send the money to your Wise account just using your bank information, like your typical, your BSB and your account number. And then you'll be able to see that amount in your Wise account. So once it's in your account, then there will be a screen where you can actually send money abroad. So actually, I'll just see if it shows it here. It's got a comparison screen. Yeah, it doesn't seem to show you the actual screen. So essentially, once you've got money in your account, what I personally find is best is I actually will, at the bottom, there is a add recipient section. So this is where you can save accounts that you will typically be sending to. So obviously, if it's like a loved one overseas, you're going to be sending the money maybe regularly to help them out. So that's the second thing I do. So just to recap, so step one is send money to my Wise account using the bank information that I get from Wise. And then step two, I then add the recipient details, because from one bank to another, especially when it's overseas, different requirements are needed. So, for example, in Indonesia, they don't really have like a BSB number, but you would basically just look for the bank in the list, and it just needs like an account number. It'll typically need the home address of the person. So there's different, I guess, requirements depending on the bank and the country's, I guess, requirements when it comes to banking. So that's why I find it way easier to just add the recipient versus I'm trying to send money while trying to add the recipient in the same moment. It can cause maybe confusion and issues with the whole process. So that is the second thing that I do is I add the recipient, and that it ensures that it's super easy to ensure that they get the money. So third, once I've added the recipient, literally opening the recipient page, there's literally a button that says send or send money. And then that's like literally the easiest way to do it. So essentially I click the button, put in the amount, and then on the screen, they'll be very transparent about what the fees will be, roughly how long it will take. So typically the first time, it may take a little bit longer, obviously, because of just security, that sort of thing. But otherwise, once it is done, it is, it's a lot easier in the future. Actually, a little tip, if the recipient is in a country where they can make a Wise account, that is how you can actually send money like instantly without even any fees. So that would be, I guess, best case scenario. That definitely will be even better than like some of those other services, like even PayPal, because that's how people were wanting to try send money without fees, was through PayPal, which isn't really the case anymore. So that's definitely a pro tip, is see if your recipient can actually create a Wise account, which obviously will have some ID requirements and that kind of thing, and it'll just depend on the country as well, if Wise is offered in the country. But if they can create the account, it's super easy. They will automatically appear in your list if they're in your contacts, and then you're able to send the money literally within seconds and zero fees. So that's like another really, really useful thing to be aware about when it comes to Wise. But yeah, I think that covers it. Actually, I might write that as notes just so that you can kind of have like a little summary. So let's go to this screen. Cool. So how to send money with Wise. So 1, add money to Wise account. Your local account obviously will be the one where there won't be any fees. So in my case, Australian dollars. So the second step is add recipient. So you know their bank info, obviously their name, bank info, name. Sometimes it needs an address, and remember, from one country to another, the requirements will be different because just the banking sort of is just different. Obviously, actually, I should add here the currency. What is the currency for that particular recipient? So that's also quite important. And then third is open recipient, and click send. I'll just double check actually what the exact wording is. The wording is definitely send. So you literally just open the recipient and you'll click send, and then you put in the amount, and then all the fees and timing, etc., will be displayed to you. But yeah, it just goes literally bank to bank. And last thing that I mentioned, so pro tip, if recipient can open a Wise account, Wise to Wise is free, is fee free, and usually instant. So that's like a pro tip. But yeah, that does kind of bring me to the end of my discussion, which actually was really educational for me because I genuinely thought, oh yeah, Wise is the best, but actually there might be some others, which is according to this Western Union and MoneyGram. However, if you do use those, I would love if you could share in comments if check Wise, because I would love to know, just for my own knowledge as well, and to be able to share with others, if they truly are, that's it, that there's definitely no other fees, that as you go through the process, it then tells you, oh, actually, there's this fee, there's actually this fee. So yeah, please do share that. That would be amazing. But otherwise, they're just other, I guess, great resources for people. That was a surprise to me, but hey, that is the world of live streaming. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. And I hope you found that useful. And yeah, please do share it with others. Probably last thing is for Australian residents. If you do like the idea of Wise and you want to consider using Wise, in my description, there's like a special offer through my referral link, which is where you get no fees. I don't know how many times it works, but you get no fees for like up to $1,000 if you're sending that amount to family and friends. Yeah, just check the description for that. But other than that, thank you so much for joining me, and until next time and the next topic. Thank you.